You can make 90 grand a year and feel untouchable, and you can make the exact same 90 grand and feel completely broke. Picture two guys, Jace and Logan. Same job, same $90,000 salary. Then they both get hit with a sudden $1,400 car repair in the exact same week. Jace taps his card and doesn't even flinch. Logan feels his stomach drop as he opens his banking app to see what bills he can push to next month. Society heavily measures financial success by income, the salary, the raises, the speed of water flowing through your hands. Net worth is the bucket catching it. The amount of water Jace and Logan manage to keep inside that bucket quietly triggers entirely different psychological realities. Researchers set up a study in a New Jersey mall to test exactly how this works. They pulled shoppers aside and asked them to imagine a car repair bill. For half the group, the bill was $150. For the other half, it was $1,500. Then they had everyone take a standard cognitive test to measure their raw problem-solving skills. This chart compares cognitive test scores between the shopper groups. Wealthier shoppers maintained consistent scores across both scenarios, but the lower-income shoppers asked to imagine the $1,500 expense saw their problem-solving ability plummet, scoring a full standard deviation lower. The shoppers possessed the same raw intelligence. The only variable that changed was that they spent 30 seconds worrying about money they didn't have. The researchers noted that the mental bandwidth drained by specific financial worry creates a cognitive deficit roughly equivalent to losing an entire night of sleep. Recent Federal Reserve data shows that nearly 30% of American adults cannot cover a surprise $500 expense using cash or savings. Nearly a third of the country is operating under this exact condition every single day. Going through life unable to handle a sudden emergency forces your brain to constantly run background calculations about survival. That low-grade financial static continuously degrades everyday decision-making. Logan lacks a financial cushion, and as a result, his mind is heavily taxed. The first line painted inside the bucket sits at $100,000. Warren Buffett's late business partner, Charlie Munger, frequently warned that getting your hands on that first 100 grand is a remarkably brutal task. He advised doing whatever it takes to reach it, because only after hitting that exact number can you finally ease off the gas. This time series graph illustrates why that initial stretch is so demanding. If you save and invest $10,000 a year, the curve stays relatively flat. It takes nearly 8 years of pure manual human effort to reach your first $100,000. Every dollar is one you actively refuse to spend. Watch what happens to the curve after that point. Reaching the next 100,000 takes only 5 years. By the time you're going from 500,000 to a full million, the timeline compresses drastically. It takes the exact same 8 years you spent originally, except you are generating 10 times the wealth in that identical window. Your money has officially clocked in for work. Crossing that initial $100,000 threshold permanently deletes the fear of the sudden emergency. It returns your mental bandwidth, and it completely buys back a quiet mind. Once the static clears, you cross into level 2, ranging from $500,000 to $1 million. During this phase, the most productive worker in your household ceases to be a human being. With a $500,000 principal, a 7% return organically generates $35,000 annually. Scale that principal to $1 million, and it produces $70,000. Your money completely out-earns the typical full-time American worker while you sleep. Having that invisible leverage subtly rewires your behavior. You stop checking the price of every item before putting it in the grocery cart. You book the direct flight instead of tolerating a miserable layover to save $60. When an employer makes an unreasonable demand, you calmly realize you have the absolute power to walk away. This phase strips away the daily friction of bracing for impact. By eliminating your dependency on a single employer, Level 2 deletes the fear of being trapped. Despite those mechanics, plenty of high earners never reach that quiet confidence. They fall prey to a psychological trap known as the hedonic treadmill. As their income climbs, there is a severe gravitational pull to let their spending drift upward right alongside it. You get the raise, so you buy the expensive car. Within a year, the thrill of the new purchase completely evaporates. Your brain resets to its baseline level of satisfaction, but the heavy monthly debt payment remains permanently attached to your cash flow. This cycle explains exactly how households pulling in $300,000 a year end up mathematically broke. Every surplus dollar gets drafted into an inflated mortgage or a luxury lease. They aggressively consume their future wealth to feed a perpetually expanding present. Building absolute wealth at this stage requires a specific kind of nerve. You have to subtract the desire for immediate lifestyle upgrades and force the gap between what you earn and what you spend to stay wide open. That gap is the only space where compounding can actually operate. That brings us to level 3. In the movie The Gambler, John Goodman plays a man permanently done doing things he doesn't want to do. He lays out a philosophy centered on a specific number, $2.5 million, a threshold he famously labels FU money. That figure is based on decades of rigorous market research and one of the most thoroughly tested concepts in personal finance, the 4% rule. This formula visualizes exactly how that works. To find the point where mandatory labor ends, you take your annual target expenses and multiply them by 25. If you want to comfortably live on $100,000 a year, you multiply that by 25 to calculate your infinite runway, $2.5 million. At that level, your portfolio can fund your life indefinitely without ever running dry. Push that calculation up to $5 million, and your investment returns alone permanently sustain a high-end lifestyle. Crossing into that specific territory places a household strictly in the top 4% of the country. There is a cruel paradox waiting at the top. Researcher Matthew Killingsworth tracked millions of real-time mood reports to test whether money buys happiness. He found that for roughly 80% of the population, more money consistently increases their baseline happiness. For the remaining 20%, people who are already deeply unhappy, the benefits flatline entirely right around $100,000. For that unhappy 20%, no amount of accumulated net worth provides relief. You simply cannot use money to cure an internal emotional problem that money didn't cause in the first place. If you are looking at these top-tier numbers and feeling hopelessly behind, stop. Focus strictly on reaching your very next incremental bucket line through boring, unglamorous, and strictly automated financial discipline. The people who reach these upper thresholds and actually feel free understand the final equation. The true goal of building wealth is using that capital to permanently delete mandatory labor, buying back the one finite, non-renewable resource you have, your time.